A very good afternoon. This is Avanindra Som and you're listening to the news in detail on Gold FM.
The news headlines on Gold FM.
Iranian ship in distress off of Gold Coast, 30 rescued. Sri Lankan Airlines resumes flights to Middle East. US assault on Iran ahead of schedule. Iran hits largest US base in Middle East. IRGC claims full control of Strait of Hormuz. T20 World Cup semi-finals begin today.
The top story on Gold FM.
A major joint rescue operation is currently underway to save approximately 30 crew members from an Iranian naval vessel that met with an accident about 40 nautical miles off the coast of Gaul. The rescued individuals are currently being transported to the Gaul harbour. The distressed craft has been identified as IIRS Dena, a vessel belonging to the Iranian Navy. Preliminary reports suggest the ship encountered a technical failure or was caught in turbulent sea conditions in the deep waters off the south coast of Sri Lanka. Upon receiving the distress signal, the Sri Lanka Navy, in coordination with relevant authorities, launched an immediate search and rescue or an SAR mission. A maritime surveillance aircraft has been deployed to the crash site to provide real-time data and coordinate the movement of rescue craft. Shortly after the incident was brought to light in Parliament by MP Chamara Sampath Asanayaka, which was followed by an explanation from Foreign Minister Vijay Herath.
ඉරාන් නැවක් මේ වෙනකොට ලංකාවේ ගාලු මූදේ ඉරාන් නැවකට පැහැරක් කළා දිනවා අපි ආණ්ඩුවෙන් අහන්නේ ඒ නැව සම්බන්ධව මොකක් හරි තියනවාද මොකද්ද වෙලා තියෙන්නේ කියලා ආණ්ඩු පස්සේ ප්‍රධාන සංවිධායකතුමා අපිට පොඩි පිළිතුරක් දුන්නා මොකද රටේ ප්‍රශ්නයක් මේ මොකද ලංකාවේ වෙන්න බෑ එහෙම ඉරාන් නැවකට ලංකාවේදී එහෙම වෙන්න බෑනේ මොකද ලංකාවේදී තමයි මේ සිද්ධිය වෙලා
අපේ මුහුදු සීමාවෙන් නෙමෙයි අපිට අයත් නොවන මුහුදු සීමාවේ ඉරාන නාවික හමුදාවට අයිති නෞකාවක් තිබුණා ඒ නෞකාව අයිරිස් ඩේනා කියන නෞකාව ඒ නෞකාව ගෙලෙනවා කියන පණිවිඩය අද උදෑසන 5:08ට විතර අපේ නාවික හමුදාවට සහ වෙරළා ආරක්ෂක දෙපාර්තමේන්තුවට පණිවිඩ ලැබුණා. ඒ අනුව අපි උදේ 6 වෙනකොට මැදිහත් වුණා. පළවෙනි නාවික යාත්‍රාව යවුවා. උදේ 7 වෙනකොට තවත් නාවික යාත්‍රාවක් යවුවා. ඒ වගේම ගුවන් හමුදාව, නාවික හමුදාව දෙකම මැදිහත් වෙලා ඒ සිදුවීමේදී අනතුරට ලක් වෙලා ඉන්නේ. 30 දිනක් පමණ දැඩි අනතුරට ලක් වෙලා තියෙනවා. 180ක් විතර නෞකාවේ පිරිස හිටිය බවට දැන් තොරතුරු වාර්තා වෙනවා. ඒ 30 දෙනාගේ ජීවිත බේරගන්න අපි වහාම මැදිහත් වෙලා ඒ අයව මේ වෙනකොට කරාපිටිය රෝහලට රැගෙනමින් තියෙනවා මේ වෙනකොටත් කරාපිටිය රෝහලට රැගෙන අවිල්ලා ඇති අපි ජාත්‍යන්තර වශයෙන් බැඳිලා ඉන්නවා TSM International Convention on Maritime Search and Rescue සම්මුතිය 1979 අපි අත්සන් කරන ලද සම්මුතිය අනුව මේ මුදු සීමාවන් වලට ඔබෙන් යම්කිසි රටක නවකට ඒ නවක ඉන්න පිරිසට යම්කිසි අනතුරක් වුණොත් ඒ රට ජාතිකත්වය නොබලා කුමන හේතුවක් මත ඒ අනතුරට ලක් වුණාද කියන එක නොසලකා මානුෂීය වශයෙන් ඒ අයගේ ජීවිත ආරක්ෂා කර ගැනීම සඳහා මැදිහත් වීමක් කරන්න අපි බැඳිලා ඉන්නේ. මේක වගකීමක්, යුතුයකමක්, මානුෂීය අර්ථයෙන් කළ යුත්තක්. ඒ නිසා අපි තා පැහැදිලිව මේ මැදිහත් වීම කරලා දැන් මේ වෙනකොට ඒ දැඩි අනතුරු තත්ත්වයට පත්වෙච්ච අයව මේ ජීවිත මුදවා ගන්න කරාපිටිය රෝහල අපේ සෞඛ්‍ය කාර්ය මණ්ඩල මැදිහත් වෙමින් තියෙනවා.
This is the local news on Gold FM.
Sri Lankan Airlines resumed flight operations to Middle Eastern destinations today following a brief suspension for security compliance. The national carrier confirmed the flight UL231 from Colombo to Dubai and the return flight UL232 from Dubai to Colombo remain scheduled to depart as planned. Officials stated that these maneuvers follow strict adherence to safety protocols aimed at ensuring passenger security amidst regional tensions. Sri Lanka is losing roughly 10 to 12 million US dollars of revenue every week as tourist arrivals drop sharply due to the ongoing Middle Eastern conflict. That's according to Deputy Tourism Minister Ruwan Ranasinghe. Meanwhile, limited flight operations to the UAE resumed from Katnak Airport during a temporary opening of the airspace yesterday. A Fitz Air flight carrying 47 passengers and an Air Arabia service with 45 travellers departed despite the ongoing regional instability. Nearly 4,000 Sri Lankan workers registered for overseas jobs face indefinite departure delays due to escalating conflicts in the Middle East. The Association of Licensed Foreign Employment Agencies said regional instability has prevented them from travelling to their destinations.
Now for some news in brief.
Six suspects were arrested by the STF in connection with the stabbing to death of a man at a house in the Uruguduat area.
The business news on Gold FM.
Global oil prices jumped as the US-Israeli war in Iran halted energy exports from the Middle East. The benchmark Brent crude oil jumped 4.7% at $83 and 70 cents a barrel, marking its highest settlement since January 2025. US West Texas Intermediate closed at $76 and 49 cents.
International news on Gold FM.
Iran's Revolutionary Guard stated that it now has full control over the Strait of Hormuz, the world's most important choke point for oil and gas. A top official, Mohammad Akbar Zahid, warned that any ship trying to pass through the waterway risks being hit by missiles or stray drones. This move effectively shuts down the primary route for global energy supplies, with reports suggesting that at least 10 tankers already face damage and hundreds more are stranded. The announcement follows a major move from President Donald Trump, who stated that the US Navy is ready to start escorting oil tankers through the Gulf to keep energy flowing. Trump also ordered a federal agency to provide insurance for shipping lines at a reasonable price to help stabilize the markets. He described the Iranian leadership as, quote, mentally ill, unquote, and, quote, crazy, unquote, claiming they were planning to strike first before the joint US-Israeli operations began last weekend. Now the news comes as the conflict continues for a fifth day. The Israel Defense Forces in the meantime announced the killing of Daoud Ali Sadeh, the commander of Iran's Quds Force Lebanon Corps, during a strike in the heart of Tehran. Israeli officials described Sadeh as the highest-ranking Iranian commander responsible for Lebanon and accused him of guiding Hezbollah firepower. In the meantime, Iranian opposition media reported that the son of the late Ayatollah Ali Khamenei was elected to replace his father as the supreme leader of the Islamic Republic. It was reported that the hand of Iran's Assembly of Experts may have been forced as they came under pressure from the Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps to choose Mojtaba Khamenei as the next supreme leader. However, a later report from the New York Times said that Mojtaba Khamenei is simply the front runner and has not been elected yet. The death toll in Iran is reaching a devastating level, with reports now confirming over 1,000 civilian deaths. In the meantime, the US State Department confirmed that over 9,000 Americans returned home in recent days. UK Foreign Secretary Wet Cooper announced charter flights from Oman for some of the 100,000 British nationals registered in the Gulf. Military support from Europe is also growing. Now, in a significant move, British F-35 jets shot down hostile drones over Jordan, Iraq and Qatar, marking their first combat success in an active operation. French President Emmanuel Macron deployed aircraft carrier Charles de Gaulle and a frigate to the eastern Mediterranean. However, President Trump is not entirely happy with Europe. He threatened to cut all trade with Spain after Madrid refused to allow the use of its military bases for strikes on Iran. Now, the Trump administration originally claimed that Iran possessed enough enriched uranium for 11 nuclear bombs at the start of the conflict. Officials suggest Tehran could have reached weapons-grade threshold within 10 days. The debate over Iran's nuclear program has long been defined as a clash between international law and regional distrust. While legal frameworks like the NPT grant sovereign nations the right to civilian nuclear energy, the West has increasingly viewed Iran through the lens of regime nature rather than technical compliance. Now, in such a backdrop, our staff reporter Chamud Fernando spoke to Nikolai Sokov, Senior Research Associate at the Center for Non-Proliferation Studies, who established that legally Iran has the right to a civilian program.
Legally, Iran has the right to have a civilian nuclear program, legally. Nothing prevents it from having nuclear energies and other benefits that are provided by our civilian nuclear program. So, number one. Number two, we don't have any evidence, in fact, that Iran has been pursuing nuclear weapons. There is some evidence that it had a very small research program more than 20 years ago, like 25 kind of years ago, but it was a research program. So Iran did not have nuclear materials to create nuclear weapons. It was just, lab kind of thing. But it was clearly ended many years ago, more than 20 years ago. So no evidence that Iran was trying to pursue nuclear weapons. All the concern about the Iranian nuclear program really stems not from what Iran is doing, but from the nature of the regime. Yes, and obviously, within the Western countries simply do not trust.
Sokov critiques the collapse of the 2015 nuclear deal, noting that while Iran was the most controlled country in the world, the US aggression and European failure to lift sanctions left Iran with no incentive to comply.
It was a good agreement. Iran was probably the most controlled country in terms of its nuclear program. Unfortunately, the opposition in the United States would always remain strong to that agreement. And Donald Trump, during his first term, in 2019, he abrogated that agreement. So the United States withdrew. The agreement remained in force, but now without the United States. And of course, it was the key player. So Europeans continue to insist that Iran should continue to abide by that agreement, accept all the verification, all inspections by the International Atomic Energy Agency, but at the same time, European countries did not implement their side of the deal. They were supposed to remove sanctions on Iran, and they did, so there was really no reason for Iran to continue implementing the treaty. When you begin to say, okay, these are bad regimes, so yes, they're not allowed. Yes, these are good regimes, yes, and they can do whatever they want. That's really the road to nowhere. So I'm not so much concerned about the Iranian nuclear program, but I'm very concerned that we're living, like in the world of the Lord of the Rings. We are elves, yes, and they're orcs, yes, and we can only fight. Yes, this is bad attitude.
Darry G. Kimball, Executive Director of the Arms Control Association, who also spoke exclusively to Gold FM, reveals the high stakes of the 2025 escalation.
The other thing that is clear is that in the negotiations between the U.S. and Iran, which had really only just begun again, the Omani foreign minister reported that the two sides were making serious and good progress. He said that a deal was within reach with further negotiations. Whether that's true or not, we will never know now. But based on the reporting, public reporting, the Iranians had made some serious proposals, including a long-term suspension of uranium enrichment, stockpiling of uranium, a full return in cooperation with the International Atomic Energy Agency. Those would have been important breakthroughs. But Donald Trump decided to launch the attack. His aims are not clear, and it is unclear, when this widening conflict will end. The last thing I would just note is that when it comes to concern about Iran's nuclear program and the nuclear material, the longer it takes for the IAEA inspectors to get back into Iran, the more uncertainty there will be regarding that nuclear material. And that's one thing that some of us are very concerned about.
In the final analysis, Kimball argues that there was no imminent threat justifying war, as Iran was months away from a potential weapon even before the strikes.
So there was no imminent threat. There was a concern, a serious concern, that Iran had the capability to produce material that could be used for making nuclear weapons. And that requires a lot of focus and attention on the part of the international community. I do not believe that launching a war is going to be the best way to address this problem long term. In fact, it may unfortunately convince some leaders that the only way to prevent an attack from an outside enemy armed with nuclear weapons is to acquire nuclear weapons yourself, which I think is the wrong conclusion, but some leaders in the future may come to that conclusion.
Entertainment news on Gold FM.
Ant and Dec have filed a High Court case alleging an intermediary made secret profits in £550,000 worth of art deals, involving works by Banksy, claiming the seller received only £300,000.
Sports news on Gold FM.
New Zealand will face South Africa today in the first ICC Men's T20 World Cup semi-final in Kolkata at 7 p.m. The winner will advance to the tournament final. That's all the news for now. Stay tuned to Gold FM for the latest updates. This is Avanindra Soma for